Hi everyone, it's Kay from the Paper Shed. Hope you're all doing well. Thanks so much for coming back and joining me again today. I'm back with part 3 of the White Rose Detective Agency, chapter 2 for Junk Journal Fix with Sunflower Indoors. Now, we did the cover, we did the inside. We came back yesterday and did the designing and the closure. So today what we're going to do is we're going to sort out how we're going to put our signatures into it. Now, before I do that, I just want to show you what I did because I did it off camera. I put my eyelets into my closure and got the size of that, and I've just attached it with an eyelet at the back. So I'm quite happy with the way that came out, actually. It ends up on the side, which is nice, so I could always add a dangle somewhere on there if I wanted to, which I'm probably gonna. You saw that I'd put the rose here and I wasn't actually happy with it. It was too dark and dingy and I didn't like it at all. So I took it off, which obviously ripped my cover. Yes, I'm rolling my eyes. I'm not happy with it. So I wanted to sort of do something else. So I managed to find that I'd got another frame. So I took the rose off and it gave me the opportunity to actually fix the fact that I hadn't inked around the inside of the frame. And then I thought it was just in the wrong place. So I got some mummy cloth and put that all the way around the inside of the frame and then added this new frame. I inked this bit so that it was sort of not in your face because it was ripped, and put some mummy cloth there. And then I didn't like the roses either around the frame, which is what I did yesterday. So I then decided that we'd put them on in a different place. And I'm actually quite chuffed with the way that it's turned out. I've added my two corner pieces on here. I'm probably going to put them on the back. I just don't know yet because I want to do something, but I'm not sure. So we're on to the spine bit now, where we're going to decide on how we're going to put our signatures in. Now, I want to do a similar closure or a similar fixing to the first one that I did. And because I had three journals, not journals, I keep calling them journals, they're signatures. If you've been watching me a while, you'll understand. um, I did three holes and put them in this way, and I would like it to look like this at the bottom. I don't want it to cross the middle of my spine. Um, so we're going to sort that out today. Now, initially I'm doing four signatures, but I want a fifth either for the signature or for a file folder that I'm planning in my head. Now, I've sort of wanted the file folder to be in the middle. So there was two signatures, the file folder, then the two signatures. And I don't want anything coming down my spine. So I got a piece of board. This is how I always work it out. I got a piece of board because I wasn't 100% sure that I needed. I know that when I did the three holes, I ended up with an extra piece. So I ended up with four strings. If I do four holes, I end up with five strings, but two of my strings are together like this. So, and I don't want them that close because I want to have the space in between for the file folder to grow. So if I was putting just an envelope in, a flat envelope and creating a couple of pockets, then that's fine for that. But because I want it as a file folder or a file folder type signature, I want to have the space. So I'm going to have to go with the five holes. So I think that's my plan at the moment. So this is the effect that I want on the outside, which is what I want to create. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that now. I want to create our holes in the top. Now we know, I'm going to have to undo this. We know that the spacing that we did for the spine initially, I mean, you can create a template if you want to. I just tend to wing it. if you like. And we know that it's 3 inches. Okay, you need to get 5 signatures in that 3 inches. You want 1/2 inch this side, and you want 1/2 inch this side. Okay. The middle is 1.5. Okay. So you want 1 at 2 and 1 at 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will give you your equal marks. I'm just going to make those a bit bigger. So it starts at 1/2 inch either side. I'm going to turn it around. And the easiest way I've found to do it is if you line it up on your board so that you've got your 3 inches. So line your 2 score lines down, making sure that it's straight. So make it straight on your board. And then get your ruler and just go from the bottom one here, making sure that that's on your halfway mark at the bottom, and then bring it up to there and mark it. Okay. Do the same on your next half mark. Making sure that you've got that on your inch mark, your first inch mark. Okay. This is just another way to do it if you're not winging it. Same on this one. Mark the bottom, mark the top. Then onto your next one. And then on your last one, which is your last 1/2 inch. Okay, and then you've got 5 marks at the top, 5 marks at the bottom. I've got a lot more than that. But we're there now. So that's the easiest way to do it, I found. I mean, if you want to use a template and that's what you normally do, then you go ahead and do that. So then we're going to get the crocodile. And I want the big ones because I've got to go through my holes twice. So the first one, you've got to make sure that where you're putting your holes is your signature's not going to come too high. So you need to get them as far down as possible. Now there is a way to alleviate that when you come to do it if it's too close to the edge. So we need it as close to the edge as possible, but we still want a little bit of a gap just to allow. So I'm going to just sort of mark it because I want it quite close. In fact, I don't think. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite close to the edge. So I'm just going to make my 5 holes. Now, because I've got double material, I don't always go through both lots of material, but it's because my thing's blunt, really. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to do the 5 on this side. Okay, and I'm just going to snip off any material because I don't want it to hinder my my eyelet. So if you've got bulk there, it'll hinder how far it goes in. So I'm just going to snip off those extra bits of material that it's left behind, just so I don't hinder my eyelets. So I now need 10 eyelets, large ones. Now you can put the backs on if you want to. I tend not to use them, but that's just because my setter actually does sink in, it settles, and you know, I don't get a rough edge. You might need a pencil just to go in and make these a little bit bigger, just so that they go in a little bit better. Okay, I'll do the top ones first. Well, actually these are the bottom ones, but so I'm going to get them all in because they're snug fit, so they won't pop out. Okay, my setter's on the right setting. I'm just going to turn that around, and then I'm just going to go in and squeeze that. Okay. Can be quite hard on your wrist, this. And there we have those through there. And there's the next 5. So just turn it on the other side and do the other side exactly the same way. So there we have our eyelets in. Now to put the elastic in. Right, so we're going to start from one end. Get the end of your elastic, and you're going to come in from behind, okay, and you're going to go right the way down to that end, pulling your elastic through. We're going to go through the first one, okay, and this one's going to come, this end is going to come into this way. Okay, and we're going to go across this way. No. And down, back through where your other one is. Okay, like so, up through there. So what you're trying to create here is a stitch effect. Okay, and then that one's going to go up that one. This is where you it doesn't really matter where that double one is. Try and keep all your stuff out of the way instead of trying to do it like me. Okay, and then this one can come down. One goes down, one goes across, and you alternate them. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it doesn't really matter how you achieve it, as long as you achieve it. So that's going to have to go back in through that way to create that stitch. Okay, and then you're going to have to come back into that one. And then out through this one. And then that one is your last stitch there, which comes out this way. And then that's what you're tying up. So now you just want to make sure that they're all fairly tight. Bring them all down. I want this one to be level with each other. For some reason, I can't tighten it. That's it. So that's the noise that you want. Okay. Okay. So that's the sort of noise that you want. These are going to cross over, so you're not going to be able to get them as flat as you want to, but try and get them as as sort of as level as you can. But they will actually cross over, those two. And then I'm going to just I could do being slightly tighter, I think. It's better. And then I'm just going to tie this up. I'm not going to tie it up too tight because I can tighten it later. So I'm just going to tie it in a knot for now and see. Actually, that's pretty good. So I'm just going to cut that off. I'll just leave a bit on just to be on the safe side. And then I'll put that away. I can always tighten that if I need to afterwards, and I will. What I'll do is I tend to like to put it to an end, but because I've got these bits here, it's going to prove difficult, so we're going to leave it there. So that's how to get those in. And then what happens then is when we come to put our signatures in, now that's the only signature I've got ready at the moment. It's not sewn, and I am going to sew mine. And then it would go in like this. Now this is going to be a tight fit because I've made the signatures to fit top and bottom. But see, the bottom one's not too bad, but the top one is pulling on that bit there. So what I like to do to my signatures, and I normally do this when it's sewn in. So I'm just going to clip that there and clip another clip at the bottom, just so that I've got them right in that corner. Okay, tight in that corner. And then what I do is I use my big eye, the larger one, which is the it does tell you, doesn't it, somewhere on here, 3/16. So I use my bigger hole, and then I slip that into there. I line up the score line mark in the middle with my line, and then I just take out a half of it, half a circle like this. Okay, so just there, top and bottom. And then I just do the same on the other side, just a half a circle. I'm going to take that off, and then I'll get that in the first one. Oh, how to make a meal of it. No. And then you'll find that will just slip into place now. So that then isn't going to bend your score lines, just the middle of your signature, and that helps that process. And it just enables you to have your signatures top and bottom quite level and quite high up instead of having a large gap. So that is that. So our first signature is in. Our spine is done. Quite like the look of that as well. And the rest are there waiting to go in. So yeah, see, that looks nice. I like the way that works. And then we've got one at the back as well that does that, haven't we? Comes out. Perfect. So all that's left to do is to do the first part now of the storyline in your signature. I'm probably going to sew my signature just because I do find it easier to work with, unless I'm actually going to do something completely different with the pages. I do quite like to work with it sewn in so that I know what space I've got and I know where it's going next to and all of that. When I've got all the pages higgledy-piggledy, if you like, I find it difficult to work with. So I'm probably going to sew my signature in. Now, let's just go over the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. Now, you can skip this if you wish to. I know that it's been done a million times, and I know that everybody has probably seen it a million times. But I thought, just to end this one, we'll do it, just because it will just help finish it off for any beginners that are there. I'll go with this one. It's a lighter colour. So just thread your needle, and then what you want is, I tend to do 2.5. So that's that ready. Then we'll just get all of our pages, making sure that they're all where you want them to be. You can use a ruler to get right into the corner of that. And then whilst you've got that there, get your nail in there, get a clip, making sure that your pages are all at the bottom, and then just clip that together. Now you can use anything to do that. They don't have to be bulldog clips. You can use large paper clips, anything you like, just to keep them steady. Okay. Then we're going to get our pokey tool. I'm just winging it this time as well. I'm going to go about in the middle. Hold it straight in front of you. Close your book as much as you can, and then just push a hole through. Come down to the end, do about 1 inch in, and push again. Do exactly the same. You want it as straight as possible. Same with this side, about 1 inch in, just hold your book and just push that in. Then you want your needle that you've just prepared. You want to, now if you go in this way, your end string is going to come out this way, and your knot's going to be in the middle. If you want the knot on the outside, start from the outside. Now it doesn't bother me either way. In fact, we'll do it this way. So you go in through there, in through the middle, and just wiggle it about until you've got all your pages. Until you can get it in. It's harder to do it this way, actually. So there you go. I found it straight away. And then just pull your needle through. When you've got to the end bit, just clip it on your bulldog clip or onto something, and it just saves when you come to, when you're doing it, it just stops your needle from unthreading. Then go either end, doesn't really matter which end you go to. find your hole, just wiggle it until you've got that through there, and then come up, make sure it's not caught on anything, go right to the other end and do the same with that one. Pull that up nice and taut, but not tight enough that it's going to split your pages. And then when you come through this way, just make sure that you're not going through this cord here, because you won't be able to tighten your pages. Okay, take that off, take your clips off, get that nice and taut, tie your first knot, okay, tie your second knot, okay, and then you can cut those off quite short. Okay, now you can just stick a bit of glue on that if you want to and glue that down, but it's not necessary. And then you've got a nice sewn in signature there. You can come in with your bone folder if you want to, and then if we get that in our front page here, because this is our first signature, and then just do that until it clips into place. That's not then going anywhere, and you've got a nice finished signature in your journal. I'm going to have to deal with this because it's annoying me really badly, and I wouldn't mind, but it hasn't even stuck the fabric down, so I just used the wrong glue. So just be wary of that. I mean, I'm usually really wary of it because I hate glue seepage on my material. But I'm quite liking the way that that's come out. So I think the only thing left to do now is to go over the story and just add that first bit of storyline into our signature. Now, I do need to sew these pages in because I haven't, but I will do that off camera. But you can come along there with your bone folder and just crease all those pages in properly if you want to. If not, don't worry. It does make a bit of a difference actually if you crease them all down. But I'll do that when I've sewn those pages in. But yeah, I'm liking the look of it. I really like it actually. I think it looks lovely. I'm quite happy with that first signature. Okay, so the introduction to the story, the second anniversary of the White Rose Detective Agency, is basically they're in White Rose Cottage. She's having a cup of tea and a slice of cake with Watson and Tuppence, and there's a big knock at the door. And it's a policeman who is quite urgently, with the situation, needs her at Winterbourne Hall as the butler has been murdered. So it's very dramatic. It's a great opening to the storyline. And yeah, so what they do is they get up, they get on the motorcycle, and they go off to Winterbourne Hall. And to be honest, because the storyline's there, there's not really much that you can do here. But amongst the ephemera, now I've got quite a bit of ephemera, and I'm not just going to be using the kit. I've done all of this one here. So just put that card away. I've done all of this cutting out as well here, which is from a couple of other detective kits that I've got. But I wanted it because I wanted certain things from it. So I wanted some evidence tags. I wanted some more postcards. I wanted just bits and pieces for ephemera and for decorating. So I'm going to be using that as well. I'm going to be using a lot of the original kit because I don't want to waste any of it. At the beginning of when I first started the chapter 1, I literally did make the mistake of actually printing everything off and then realised that I needed some double-sided sheets, and then I realised that I had far too much, which is why it ended up the way it did. But I did actually manage to get everything in that journal. Everything that I cut out, everything that I did for that journal was out of the papers that I printed. So I sort of did the same here. I printed off week 1 in its entirety and then went back in and doubled my pages. What I shall do as I go along is I shall just assess what I need, but I will be using as much of the ephemera as possible from the journal. So I'm going to keep these pieces. Now this that I covered the journal in, the leather look paper, isn't from this kit. It's from a different detective story kit, and neither is that one. That's from a different detective kit as well. But I just liked the idea of a background for a cluster or whatever for that. So yeah, I'm not even sure if that's from this kit. I hope I haven't got them mixed up because I've done loads. So we've got a couple of pictures. So we've got her going off on a motorcycle. We've got the policeman dramatically entering from the hall, wanting her at Winterbourne Hall. So we've got that as well. We've also got Tuppence, who is, eye rolling them as they ride off to the crime scene. There's quite a few of those. I'm taking it that is Winterbourne Hall. So yeah, and I think that's probably all we've got as in pictures from this first one. So I think we're going to incorporate these in here somewhere. Now I want to keep that as a writing space first of all, and so I think I'm just going to put in the police officer. I might put him on this page actually. The police officer with these 4, and I'm probably thinking of just putting them into a pocket and using them as journal cards, because by the time you've done that look, you've still got a page of writing. So I don't mind using the page just to do that. It's got a background because it's already been tea dyed. So I could cut this down. Now with my others, I backed them onto some card, not card, but other, like a different, a white background, and edged them like an old photograph, like the old-fashioned square photographs. So I'm thinking that I might do the same to those. So I'm literally, that is all I'm going to actually do is back them. I will stick this one in and I will pop those. Actually, I prefer the cat. And then put those into there as the first scenes from the week 1. So we'll do a pocket. Now I think I might do a pocket out of this because it's quite neutral and quite nice. So I'm going to do that first. I'll get those glued down, and I'll just make me a pocket for here. So I'll do that now. So my page is 5.5. So I just want to go just under 5.5. But then I want 1/2 inch either side, so I want 6.5. So I want it cut about there. I then want to just score my lines in. So 1/2 inch this side, 1/2 inch this side, 1/2 inch at the bottom. I'll snip those corners off. Okay, and I'll crease those lines in. This pocket's probably too big. Yeah, the pocket itself is probably too big, unless you want to put some on the pocket. Make a larger tag, and we can put, I could put that picture up there. We can either do it like that, or we can cut the pocket down to about there, which I think is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut the pocket down, and I'm going to cut that picture down a little bit before I back them all. What size is that pocket? 3.5. Yeah, that'll do nicely. Okay. I'll get that inked up and glued on. I think we'll do a notch. Yeah, see, he'd still fit on there. And then we could do a little bit of a cluster here. We could stick Kitty up there. I wanted to cut her down, didn't I did ink, or I spent the weekend actually cutting out and inking all of my papers. So hopefully nearly everything is inked. And it will only be really if I cut anything down. Yes, I quite like the kitty up there. I think it looks quite good. And I think we can get that picture on there with a bit of a cluster here. And I think what we'll do, those can be made into journal spaces. With another one maybe. Another one of Kitty. Well, it's tuppence, isn't it? Tuppence. Now, I'm sure I've seen a recipe for, there it is. We've got a little recipe for the coconut cake, which I'm quite happy to pop on there. It doesn't really go with that picture, does it? Let's see what other pictures we have. We have lots of the doggy. I think we've got some where she's actually having tea. Here, they're all having tea there, look. It's just that this picture won't go on, so I'll have to cut that down. And then we'll put the coconut there with a little bit of extra ephemera, I think. Yeah. I quite like that. I do like the screaming policeman though. Oh no, he's underneath, isn't he? I actually think that's quite funny. So I think I might stick with him. Otherwise I'm not going to get to use him, am I? So, because once this initial storyline started, yeah. So yeah, I'm going to get the pocket on. And I found this in the drawer, so I want to get rid because it's older. So I'm just going to glue down here. And get that glued onto that page. Let me just... Make sure that doesn't hinder that page. No, it doesn't really, does it? I just glue it on. Make sure it's not glued anywhere down there. And then we'll get the screaming policeman on there. And that. Should we put anything behind it, I wonder? Maybe like, because it's like they were disturbing their tea. So I'm wondering a bit of a doily maybe. Just a little bit. I need to colour that a little bit. So I'm just going to come in on the edge of there. I don't need much, do I? I just want it to come out from... Yeah, just a bit. Just a little bit something, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, quite like that. So let's get that glued down first. And I'm just going to do the edges because the other bit will get glued down when I put... She said when I put the other stuff on, so I'm going to go around the edge. So I sort of want that like so. I might need to just take that bit off there. That's it. Well, I do find this glue really sticky. I think that's why I didn't use it initially. It's just so sticky. And then I'm not going to back the policeman on to make it look like a photograph, just because it's big enough as it is. So we'll get that on, sort of like so. I'll need him a little bit straighter. There we go. And then we'll just get this one on. And then if I can find a word or something to go on that. Maybe come across a little bit so you can see his hand knocking the door. There we go. And then I think I'll just see if I can find anything else. But to be honest, I'm just going to back those onto white and make those into photographs. And then I'm just going to pop Kitty up here as a bit of decoration with maybe a word on there as well. So I'm just going to stick her on as well. I'll put her this way actually. Yeah. That pocket's probably a bit deep for these, but if I back them to make them a bit thicker, and then I can keep them out like that. And there's our first page and the beginning of our story. So I think I wish I'd have done it in there now, but I haven't. So we've done it there. I want to leave that as writing space. I'm thinking anyway. So yeah, I'm quite enjoying that. That's quite a nice start to the proceedings. So I hope it was useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Take care.